Unsealed Alien Files. By early July 1952, UFO sightings dramatically increase across North America, forcing the U.S. Air Force to make UFO investigation a top priority. But nothing could prepare them for what occurs over the most heavily guarded airspace in the world, the nation's capital. Unsealed case file, the Washington, D.C. flap. On July 19, 1952, an air traffic controller at Washington National Airport picks up 7 objects on radar. He later describes them as completely radical compared to ordinary aircraft. Headlines the next day read, "Saucers swarm the Capitol." On July 26th, a national airlines flight reports more UFOs. Andrews Air Force Base tracks them on radar. Witnesses describe the lights as traveling faster than any shooting star. By July 29th, the Air Force issues an unprecedented shoot-down order. The Washington Post writes, no pilot has been able to get close enough to take a shot, as the objects are outflying the jets by 1,000 miles an hour. But exactly what is in the skies above Washington, D.C.?
There's something in our skies. It's faster than us. It's more maneuverable than us. We track them on radar. We send our pilots up to try and intercept them, and yet they give us the slip. What's going on in our skies?
Are these UFOs interplanetary ships from outer space? Or is there another explanation? With dozens of witnesses and radar evidence, the Air Force must calm an uneasy public. July 29th, 1952. General John Samford, Director of Air Force Intelligence, holds a press conference.
We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberration.
One of the explanations that was put forth for this by the Air Force was that this was caused by a temperature inversion.
But many in the UFO and scientific communities are unable to believe the explanation.
It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve.
After Samford speaks, Major Donald Kehoe takes the microphone, and what he says is shocking.
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
Just how much did the government know, and how far were they willing to go to keep it from the public? Unsealed case file, the Robertson Panel. January 1953. After experiencing an unprecedented surge in UFO sightings, the CIA convenes the Robertson Panel.
The Robertson Panel was a group of scientists, radar experts, nuclear physicists, people that were brought together by the CIA to try and figure out how to deal with the UFO problem.
The head of Project Blue Book, Captain Ruppelt, presents cases with the most compelling evidence. Among them, the Tremonton and Mariana films. But Ruppelt quickly realizes the panel has already come to their own conclusions.
The objective of the Robertson Panel was already determined before they stepped into that room and started deliberating what that evidence showed.
After hearing just 12 hours of testimony over 3 days, the Robertson Panel's final conclusion is that UFOs do not pose a threat to national security, and that the overwhelming majority of sightings can be explained by natural phenomena.
Many experts now look at the documents and say, well, they really weren't doing their job as true investigators. They were collecting these reports, analyzing them, and pretty much dismissing them one at a time. Weather balloon here, swamp gas there, the planet Venus over here. And they were just completely dismissing anything that came in.
Years later, the secretary of the Robertson Panel, CIA operative Frederick Durant, reveals that the Robertson Panel was not tasked with investigating evidence, but with, quote, establishing a protocol for debunking UFO sighting claims.
If you've got a case with a really obvious conventional explanation, publicize those cases and don't, whatever you do, publicize the unknowns.
This is the strongest evidence that Project Blue Book and the 12,000 plus cases that they investigated is not necessarily an investigation, but rather an explanation. And the Robertson panel absolutely proves that.
Coming up, what Ruppelt secretly tells Air Defense Command just 2 weeks after the Robertson panel would have shocked the nation. The time to act is now. Tell us your story. The 1952 UFO wave shakes the nation and raises doubts about the effectiveness of the U.S. military against unexplained threats. But the U.S. government denies that the phenomena even exists.
It is inconceivable to me, as somebody who served in the Ministry of Defense for 21 years, that one could receive credible reports and then dismiss them without some form of proper scientific investigation.
Captain Edward Ruppelt, the head of Project Blue Book, is asked to brief Air Defense Command. In the meeting, Ruppelt allegedly reveals that based on a statistical breakdown of over 1,000 sightings, only 11% can be positively identified. The remaining 89% are categorized as probably identified, possibly identified, and unknown.
It doesn't matter what these things are. We need to calm the public down because the real threat could be society itself.
Since the extraordinary surge of UFO sightings in 1952, the American government to this day denies that it studies UFOs. But some believe otherwise.
I am convinced that the government continues to investigate UFOs, but I suspect that they do it through the third-party offices of some defense contractor hidden away, well away from public scrutiny.
Without a central organization to collect information on UFO sightings and investigate them, no one knows how many UFO events occur each year. Will there be another 1952? How will we know? And will the government even warn the public? This is Unsealed, Alien Files, exposing the biggest secret on planet Earth.